Greetings and welcome to Rice Crypto. I'm your host, Rice, and today I am joined by a returning guest, fellow content creator, British HODL. I will include a link down below in the video description and above for our first conversation together. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of Bitcoin, discussing the spot ETF, maximalism, building on Bitcoin, and then shifting the conversation to the fragility of our financial system and much more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's show is a returning guest. I will have a link down below as I said in the intro of this video for his first appearance, and I definitely encourage you to check that one out. Today, I am rejoined by Mr. British HODL. What is going on, my friend?
You know, crazy times right now. Crazy times. Thanks for having me back. I hope everything's going well with you. And you know, it's wild times right now. We've entered December with a bang. What's going to happen in January?
I don't know, man, because like you said a few things in some videos. I've been trying to catch up with some of your content, mentioning that reality seems to be starting to set in on the TradFi system. And I don't know. I don't know that that's really true. And I don't think that crypto is really grounded in reality quite as much either. And I'd like to talk about that, but I will let people know in case they're not already subscribed to your channel. I would definitely encourage people to head over to your YouTube channel. Again, these will be linked in the video description as well as his first appearance. I wanted to say, Mr. BH, British HODL, congratulations on the growth of your channel.
Thank you, brother.
I think you were under 10,000 subscribers when you first came on the show a couple months ago.
When I first came on yours, I think I was at about 13K. No, less than that.
I was thinking
6 or
7, 8, something like that. I can go back on a video and figure it out, but I know your channel's grown. I know a lot of people have been sharing your content in a lot of different ways, regurgitating your videos. So I want to congratulate you on that. Even your growth on Twitter, man. I've been on Twitter since sometime like mid 2018, and I think I have like a little over somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 followers, and you definitely, I would say, at least 4x me, at least. So
yeah, I mean, Twitter was where I first started because it was like that's where I could be anonymous. But then once you don't mind not being anonymous, then I think YouTube is the one. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, and you know, all I'm trying to do is get people to sense this urgency. The people that are not in crypto, the people that are not in Bitcoin, the people that don't know what the hell is happening. I'm talking about people like my parents, as I always said at the last one. That's what I'm trying to wake up.
Are you going to be reposting this video on your channel like you did before?
Probably.
Okay. Well, if you end up doing that, I would like to encourage the people that are subscribed to your channel that aren't familiar with my content to come check out my stuff here on the Rice Crypto side, and make sure you check out this first video that me and BH did together. The Hunger Games for Bitcoin has begun. I want to get into that, man. I don't know where to start. I guess what I want to do is ask you, like, where's your head at when it's coming to Bitcoin right now? Like, I think I've heard you say that in your opinion, you think we might be hitting all-time highs before the halving, which we're looking at sometime mid to late April.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you expand like on that and where your head is at with Bitcoin?
So you're going to be putting this video out tomorrow, you said, right? So basically,
yeah, we're recording it on the 4th of December, and it'll be out on the 5th.
Right. So on the 4th, yesterday, basically, if you're watching this on the 5th, I put out a video about how BlackRock would be acquiring Bitcoin for their clients. Right? It's not there yet, but it will be.
It's not out. Okay, so you're talking about in the future.
I'm trying to do Matrix right now. I'm trying to be in the future of being here. So yeah, that video, BlackRock in 2022 filed for a Bitcoin trust available only for its private clients with no public exposure and no public scrutiny. A lot of people don't know about this.
A private spot ETF, Bitcoin or
no,
BlackRock is offered.
no, a private Bitcoin trust. So in essence, the way I can understand it, because I can't find much information about it besides the news that was published about it, it's almost like they've got their own GBTC, internal.
I was gonna say it
GBTC.
sounds like they've done what Grayscale did with
Yeah,
GBTC. Okay.
yeah. So they've had this since 2022. I can't see what the AUM is inside of this. I can't see who the investors are because it's not available for public scrutiny. We don't know who and how much Bitcoin and how long they've been sitting there in the markets acquiring this Bitcoin, like Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has to come out and tell us that we just bought $600 million worth of Bitcoin. And he has to come out and tell us that. BlackRock doesn't have to reveal what's going on in this private trust
because it's
right?
private.
As far as I can tell, it's private and it's for their institutional clients only. So that what you do with that is,
so it's a private version of the GBTCs because GBTC is available to the public.
As far as I can tell, that's exactly what it is. Which means
cool.
Which means it's a one-way Bitcoin sucking trust inside of BlackRock that has been existing and functioning since 2022.
Well, the good thing to know about that, man, is because a lot of people have been questioning, and I did want to kind of dive into it further, is are these institutions already accumulating? Because some people
that's the point of the video, because a lot of people are saying, oh, BlackRock's probably buying Bitcoin on its balance sheet in order to front run the ETFs. That's moronic thinking. BlackRock can't do that. But what they can do is create an investment objective for their clients to allocate to, which is exactly what they did in 2022, and no one's talking about it. It's weird. I found it on Reuters. I found it on CNBC. It's listed on the BlackRock website, and no one's talking about it.
I'm glad that you mentioned this because I've been trying to look into like the balance sheet as much, because this is not like one of my specialty areas, but I've been trying as much as possible to look into the balance sheet of like BlackRock, Fidelity, and these other institutions to see how much Bitcoin they have exposure to, because I have this, I'm still stuck in this whole saying of these financial institutions don't buy until there's blood on the street, even if it's their own blood. And right now, obviously, there's no blood on the street. So if we're thinking about it in theory that these institutions have not accumulated Bitcoin, they would want to get Bitcoin at the lowest possible price, which would mean that we would see some downward action. Obviously, we're having people call for sub 10K on Bitcoin, sub 20. We can get into all that, but yeah, to know that they have this private Bitcoin trust means that they are probably accumulating, have been accumulating.
Yep.
And it might be in a lot better of a position than we already think. Whereas someone like ARK or entities like Grayscale with their trust, they can, like Grayscale can just convert over, which is I guess would be the idea with this private trust, is once the spot ETF approval is approved, they can then convert this private trust into a public ETF, I believe.
Why? No. Why would you do that? Right? This would just be for your private clients. No one needs to have any, because remember, once you buy an ETF, it's going to be listed, right? You're going to have who the shareholders are, et cetera, et cetera. If you want your private clients to get exposure to Bitcoin in a secret, private way, it's not advantageous to do that. It's better to have a private trust that's not a publicly listed ETF, in order for your clients to get access to that very, very quietly.
That makes sense.
And the way Michael Saylor buys Bitcoin is they go in and they'll tell Coinbase, here's $600 million. Coinbase's algorithm will sit there and it's not going to go in and put a $600 million buy order. It's going to wait for $1 million sell order to come through, jump into the market, grab that. Wait for a $50,000 sell order to come through, jump in the market and grab that. How do we know BlackRock hasn't been doing that since 2022? This entire bear market.
Or even, I mean, I guess now, I don't know if you have a private trust like this, if you even have to have any sort of public recognition or any articles writing about it. So, I mean, that could mean in theory that these other institutions are also have private Bitcoin trusts as well, potentially.
Right.
Which would mean that we wouldn't have as much of an effect if the Bitcoin spot ETF approval from the TradFi side, because they've been scooping up.
Well, that's a different thing. These private trusts, you're not going to make big waves about them. So let's say let's say you need to give me $1 billion in order to become a client. I might create a private trust and only talk to the people that have given me more than $5 billion and been with me for more than 10 years. Right? It's an exclusive club. That's what you're basically creating here. And that's what I'm saying. Like they've had it. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how much AUM there is on that private trust. I don't know what's happening. But if there was going to be any front running of their ETF, that is the vehicle that they would do it with, which is now there's reason to say that, there is actually some accumulation happening.
Right, which definitely makes a lot of sense. So where are you, because I'd really like to get your opinion on like where you're coming up with this idea that Bitcoin could potentially hit all-time highs before the halving, because if you look at past cycles, we don't see an all-time high take place before a halving. It's generally several months after, if not even like a year after, a full year, up to, because it's based off traditional cycles. Now we are entering into uncharted territory. We got the bond markets. They seem to be kind of underwater. I know that you talked about a bond rally, but I think that's just the Fed buying up the bonds, because I don't see other investors buying up bonds. The bond market looks to be kind of screwed right now.
There's institutional buying going on in the bond market, as you can see with the 2-year coming down. Like there's institutional purchasing going on in the bond market. Right now we're entering a period where it's about time for the Federal Reserve to reverse policy on the interest rates, where they've tightened it so much. They're going to need to loosen that up. On top of all of that, this is the first Bitcoin cycle where you now have less Bitcoin on exchanges than any other cycle. Now, just a few days ago, there was a wallet discovered buying 100 Bitcoins every few hours, right? Is that BlackRock? I don't know. I don't know who that is, right? So the supply shortage is getting very, very tight now. The accumulators that are coming in want to buy and hold forever, and they're certainly not cash strapped, so they don't need to sell it. And so you factor in all those things, and you factor in the fact that we're going into an election year and all this other stuff, and the wars going on around the world. And I think there is catalyst for Bitcoin to reach $70,000 before the halving. Is it likely? Has it happened? No, but there is reason for that catalyst to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, under that theory, anything is possible. But yeah, I mean, I just, considering everything that's happening, I feel as if, and it's just my own personal theory. I mean, I don't think that we're out of the ballpark of a recession taking place. And I think that could even escalate further depending on what the Federal Reserve decides to do over the next few months. I mean, the Fed is going to be meeting again next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. So they'll start a week from the time that we're putting this video out, and then on the 13th they'll make their announcement. Do you think the Fed, because if Jerome Powell has come out on saying, I think it was mid-summertime when they decided to do their pause, saying that there was going to be at least one more rate hike. Here we are at the very last FOMC meeting, and we see the system, the entire TradFi system cracking further and further and further. So it's like, what is the Federal Reserve going to do? What do you think the Fed's going to do on the 13th? Do you think they're going to continue to pause? Do you think they're going to raise interest rates? Do you think they're going to lower interest rates? Because there's a lot of talk about reversing course, but I don't know if it's going to happen this soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the side of pause at this point, unless something drastic happens. I think they're done when it comes to rate hikes. I think inflation has continued to trend downwards. More than 50% of the CPI basket is in deflation at this point. And I don't think the Federal Reserve can really push this anymore. The 2-year is also telling the Fed what it wants. And the 2-year is known as basically the shadow Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve follows the 2-year. And now the 2-year has crossed down on the Fed funds and will continue to the downside, I think.
Okay, you're talking about like the 2-year Treasury bond.
Yeah, the
Okay,
2-year interest rate.
so a lot of people, when they talk about the inverted curve, they're usually using the 10 and the 2-year as a basis, and that's where the 10-year is yielding less than a 2-year, which we've seen happen. Now, when it uninverts, which is what seemingly happened now, is because I believe it's pretty much 100% as far as an indicator with the inverted yield curve is pointing to recession.
Yep.
And then when we see the uninversion is when the actual recession begins. So now
Right.
we're seeing the uninversion.
Yeah, because you know why that happens, right? It's because when it uninverts, that's when the Federal Reserve has finally sufficiently tightened the interest rates enough for the economy to actually feel something. The difference is this time you're going into a quote unquote recession with full unemployment, and that's different. So we're gonna wait, see what happens. I'm not saying there isn't going to be a recession. It just could be the very, very mild recession rather than the dramatic one that we've all become accustomed to. Not every
Right.
recession is a 2008.
No, and actually, in hindsight, in 2020, we did experience a recession. A lot of people didn't feel it because one, everything was kind of put on pause,
Right.
and there was so much money printing going on as well that people weren't really feeling it. But we've seen the same situation with the inverted yield curve uninverting, and all signs in late 2019 were pointing to
Something
um,
happening.
yeah, and then we had the unexpected pandemic that took place to kind of be an excuse in March when the stock markets crashed yet again, like in 2008, and they had to halt trading several times throughout the month. So, I mean, like that's why I'm saying we're at a really unprecedented time period in history.
But you know,
And the
I just wanted to touch quickly on the idea that Bitcoin can't reach a all-time high or it's unlikely rather for Bitcoin to reach an all-time high before the halving. So I believe that there is a multiple on the Bitcoin price quite often, and that's 118 to 1. For every $1 that goes into Bitcoin, the market cap goes up by 118. If we were to apply that to get the price from where it is right now to $70,000, would need just a let's just say a $6 billion injection into the Bitcoin price. $6 billion of raw cash coming into Bitcoin could take the price from 35,000, a little bit lower than where we're at right now, to 70,000. And I think if an ETF is approved in January, you could easily find another $6 billion going into Bitcoin.
okay, and no, I think, and that's 6 million. You said 6 million, 6 billion,
6 billion.
6 billion. I mean, that doesn't seem very, very outlandish,
Not
honestly.
outlandish at all. Michael Saylor just bought 600 million.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem outlandish. And that's okay. So you're thinking that we're going to see, because based off of us talking last time, we weren't really sure when we were going to see a Bitcoin spot ETF approval. I got this beautiful graphic here. It's talking about the schedule, the time, the issuers, the ticker, the asset, all the information, final deadline. We have January 10th as the final deadline for ARK Invest. I don't see, there's Grayscale is their final deadline's already obviously come up. So I don't know what that means. I think the SEC has been meeting with Grayscale. I think the
They've
SEC
been
has
meeting
been
with
meeting.
all of them. Yep.
I was gonna say, I think they've been meeting with all of them. So I think we're going to see an approval. When are you thinking it's going to happen? And who do you think will get approved first?
So I think that I did an interview with James Seyffart from Bloomberg Intelligence on my channel, which is a great interview, and he does a great job at breaking down from a journalistic point of view exactly and the historical point of view what happens with these ETF approval processes. But I trust his analysis as much as you can trust anyone's analysis. So I think the fact that they work for Bloomberg Intelligence and are confident enough to say that we think there's a 90% chance of approval by January 10th. I can lean on that.
Now, with that being said, though, do you think that it would just be ARK Invest that gets the approval first? Do
No,
you think because they
no.
can approve everybody all at once?
It will be everyone all at once. At least, let's say, at least 5 of them together. They might push 5 to the next round, but if the fact that they've been beaten up by the courts so much, I can't see how the SEC takes a risk by trying to play favorites. And the SEC's job is never to really play favorites here.
Right.
You know, a lot of people think that, but it's really not. That's not their job.
No, I agree, and I think I think we spoke about this before. Giving it to BlackRock would just giving them that front runner position, which would obviously give them an advantage. And you can't look as so obvious that you're trying to play sides. So I definitely think that we're going to see an approval for everybody all at once. So
Yeah, listen, look, they're probably pissed off with the SEC for sure, right? The SEC is probably pissed off with Grayscale for sure. And the way to harm Grayscale, based on the lawsuits and everything, is not to hold it back, because that could open you up to more liability, but to let you go with 9 others. Right now, you lose your
right, because
first.
now you're not special.
Exactly. That's the
Right.
way to hurt Grayscale. If I was the chairman of the SEC.
And not to also look like you're trying to be
Yeah, because think about what happens, right?
favoritism to like your BlackRocks and such.
Let's put it like this: BlackRock can afford to take less fees on any of their publicly traded funds than Grayscale. It's a bigger company, more economies of scale, etc., etc. So if they let Grayscale go at the same time as 9 other people, including BlackRock, now you might find that $5 billion on the day that it starts trading leaves Grayscale, because BlackRock just has a lower fee. So they sell their GBTC position and buy the BlackRock position, just because they can afford to have a lower fee. So that would be a way to actually, serve a fuck you to Grayscale in an appropriate way. But I don't think the SEC is going to come and say, Grayscale, sit down, BlackRock, you're up. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. There's a lot of people thinking that we're going to see this approval happen by January 10th. They obviously don't have to. They can still push off the ARK Invest, I believe, and then try to push it closer to the March date, which would be the next, as far as the next issuers, March 15th.
I believe that is the final
14th.
deadline. So if they were to deny it, that would be a denial.
A straight up denial.
Straight up denial, from my understanding.
Yeah, because they've went through so many different times of it being pushed off. Okay, so this is that, and so that's why we see first, second, and third deadlines on here, because we are at the final deadline. So yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Yep. And the price
I can only imagine if they didn't approve ARKs and denied it, it would probably leave a lot of and not approve any others. It would probably leave a lot of people questioning what's going to happen with the spot Bitcoin ETF, and that could potentially drive the price down. But I'm not sure what's going to happen here. It doesn't look like the SEC wants this to happen, but it looks like it's going to happen regardless of whether they want it to.
Yeah, maybe, short-term price action would be affected, but overall, I think that Gary Gensler at this point, having been attacked by the courts, his own people, inside the SEC, the other SEC chairman, now every fund, including BlackRock, is on the enemy side. If that approval doesn't happen, I think there's a high likelihood that Gary Gensler is out as chairman.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think I've heard kind of rumors that he wants to have the Secretary of Treasury position. So I would imagine that if he's going to leave the SEC, he doesn't want it to be he wants it to be on his terms and not on others' terms, because I think that might end his potential future career within the government, even though he has been nothing but, in my opinion, a government puppet. He's just one of these guys that does what he's told and does it well. I mean, even if it conflicts with his own information.
Listen, how do I say this without sounding insensitive?
Be insensitive, man.
I think Gary Gensler is the MVP of Bitcoin for this cycle. Everyone's going to hate me saying that, right? But let's think about it from an institutional perspective. And again, I will talk as a Bitcoin maxi, right? So I'm going to say that
Well,
right
you
off.
are a Bitcoin maxi. What are you talking
No.
about?
So I'm saying I'm going to talk as one rather than pretending to be friendly, right? At the end of the day, I wasn't expecting FTX and Binance to both be served the sentence from hell in one cycle so swiftly and smoothly, right? That's what's important, because you want stability in the market, right? He's taken out, FTX is gone. Binance has basically been slapped so hard into position that they won't be screwing around anytime soon.
Well, no, and their new CEO is a World Economic Forum member as well.
Right? I said I think that the next CEO will end up being American or European or something like that. And it turns out the guy is Singaporean, which is basically as American as you can get in Asia. Right? So Singapore's banking system is intricately tied with the American banking system. And yeah, this is great. This is all great, because the next step is really battening down the hatches on all these securitized tokens, because that's what they are. They're securities, trading illegally as securities. So taking out FTX was job number one. Let me just mute this up. I don't know whether you can hear this notifications going on.
I could.
Taking out
totally
FTX,
could, but it's all good.
Taking out FTX was job number one. Well done for Gary Gensler and the US regulatory department. And job number two, slapping Binance into position and showing CZ what's actually possible if he doesn't step down and start controlling himself. Excellent. This is what we want. I can afford to wait 5 years for an ETF. I can afford to accumulate Bitcoin for another 5 years. I have no problem with that. What I want is markets to be performing how markets should be performing, so that when it becomes an institutional asset, it can take off like a rocket ship. And Gary Gensler has been the MVP of Bitcoin, whether Bitcoiners like it or they don't.
I mean, he's been a cheerleader for Bitcoin. It's the other cryptocurrencies that he's putting into question, which kind of in a sense you are as well. But I will say on my end, I like and want to see non-KYC exchanges.
Sure you do.
I like that level of privacy. So I really did appreciate what KuCoin and Binance were doing at some point. And obviously this came to bite CZ in the ass.
Yep.
I think CZ kind of took a bullet in a way for the whole entire industry. He still remains, he still keeps his ownership shares. I think that he could, in theory, be the CEO of the company again after like so much time, which is like something like 4 or 5 years. If I'm
after they get in there and gut the company to pieces, so that all of these crypto, all the crypto can go back into the hellhole that it came from, he can come back and be CEO of its Bitcoin exchange.
You're going to run like a Bitcoin only exchange, just trading just Bitcoin against itself.
Listen, I tweeted this like 9, maybe even 12 months ago. I said that's exactly what Coinbase will do. Coinbase will pivot to a Bitcoin only focused exchange with a few tokens that will be approved by the SEC. And that's what they'll focus on, because the real money is in providing the exchange services and the custody services for the ETFs. And what have they done? They've done exactly that. That's a smart move.
Well, it's also taking out the competition, because I mean, I believe that if the regulatory powers are going to want to have the people that are in the club joining, running these exchanges, they don't want these crypto rebels doing it. So it's like, because even now going after Kraken a second time after they've already been in a sense had an issue with the SEC is showing what. And to me, Jesse Powell and Kraken, they operate as well as any institution should operate in the cryptocurrency space. They do require KYC, AML, and they follow all the procedures. So I want to be able to see people that have helped build this space and create it to be what it is, because we wouldn't be where we are without Binance and FTX and all these other exchanges, regardless of what happened in the aftermath. We wouldn't be where we are. And I feel we still need to have people from our industry representing this ethos, because TradFi has a completely different ethos. And I think that freedom of expression still needs to remain in cryptocurrency, regardless of TradFi's involvement. That's just my personal opinion.
I get it. And I empathize with it too. It's just not how the world works. Now we can say,
but the world needs to change.
Right. We could say that's the argument. We need to change the world. You're fighting against a $900 trillion empire, right? It's just that's just not how the world works, right? And people will hate me for it a lot when I say that, but it's the truth. At the end of the day, this is how the world works. Let me ask you a question. Where was Binance located?
They weren't.
No one fucking knows, right?
They weren't. That's the beauty of it.
Right. But you can say that's the beauty of it, but you can't have, one of the most important assets known to humanity ever being influenced and manipulated by an entity that you don't know. Like, where do you talk
I
to
know, but I wouldn't say influenced and manipulated, though. I mean, like they were run. So the good thing that we can definitely say in here to distinguish the difference in between the FTX and Binance situation is Binance was not commingling funds, taking user funds and doing things they weren't supposed to do with it. Binance was in a very good position, and it seemed like they were operating, in a sense, very comparable to a Kraken because they implemented the KYC stuff several years ago. So it wasn't as if they were just allowing everybody to use
So
the
they just
platform.
got taken down for nothing?
It wasn't nothing. They've been under investigation for years. That's why they got ultimately, I think it was violating the Banking Secrecy Act, which also had to do with violating the KYC AML requirements, the Know Your Customer anti-money laundering requirements, because they were not requiring KYC up to a certain point. So yeah, they could go back and under investigation, build up charges. But in the meantime, they had done everything to be compliant. So after in between the investigation and a conviction, there were things that Binance was doing to show that they were trying to play ball. Aside from like a physical location, which I get your concern on that.
Just tell me who I need to talk to. Who do you're a multi-billion-dollar organization. Where shall I meet you for a meeting? Where is your headquarters? You can't answer the fucking question, So
Right.
that's a
Well,
problem.
but I mean, just like even Coinbase, man, here in the United States, they don't have a customer service line that you can call. And it's not like you can just go to the Coinbase office and show up and think you're going to get help on your account.
It's not about that. I'm talking about from a regulatory perspective, because if you want this industry to grow, there is going to be regulation coming. And when a regulator doesn't know who to talk to, where to talk to them, which jurisdictions' laws to follow, which due process to follow, it's not going to work. That's why FTX obviously was doing a lot of illegal things. And I think in reality, I think Sam Bankman-Fried took the bullet for the entire industry, for the crypto space. And I think CZ realized that this is the end of it, and then went over to them and said, "Hey, let's do a deal."
And I mean, it's quite possible.
Gary Gensler has overseen the destruction of the two largest hellholes of, let's say, crypto speculation that was existing. And I know everyone likes to say that
if you're just talking about offering a place to trade altcoins, other cryptocurrencies, or shit coins, then I mean, I'm not a maximalist. I told you I'm a minimalist, and I definitely feel like there needs to be that offering of choice to be able to get these coins. So if you're referring to it in that manner, I disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically saying that they offered the ability for people to legitimize their shit coins, which are securitized offerings of share ownership in projects that have built nothing and are working to build something one day. The only value that people were pursuing is speculation, and therefore, if they were pursuing a value gain in their investment, that is considered a security, and it should be licensed. Now, we can argue whether securities laws are relevant or not, but that's how the system works. You can't just say, "Oh, we're just going to ignore it," right? If you want to change,
and I know that there's a lot of projects that are definitely securities, the way that they were offering all those things. So I definitely agree with you on that. It doesn't include 100% of the industry. Now, with that being said, I'm just curious, since we talked last, and you mentioned that having a Bitcoin centric exchange with other coins. Well, if you, let's say you had a chance to have this exchange, that you got to pick the coins based off the research that you've done, what other coins in the cryptocurrency sphere would you include on this exchange that you find are relevant have use case, etc.
At the end of the day, if a coin can go through a securities filing and be accepted as a tradable security, I'm a capitalist, right? I think anyone should have the right to speculate based on the laws of the capital markets on whatever they want to speculate with. Now, do I think that you should be able to do that outside of securities laws? No, I don't, because I think securities laws are there for a reason. Some people hate them, some people love them sometimes, some people hate them sometimes. But I'm not here to debate that. What I'm saying is, if a shitcoin can go through the securities process, the filing process, and be accepted as a security, it should be able to be allowed to trade. I'm not the one to judge whether it has value or not. All I wanted to do is go through the security registration process, which none of them will do, right? None of them do it for some reason. And then once they do that, then I'll trade it on this imaginary
Well, there's
exchange.
some. There's okay. So EOS, they had, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, the SEC hit them for securities violations. They paid a fine. I think it was like 4 billion. No, it was like 4 million. I can't remember it couldn't be billion, but it was like something like $4 million. They would technically be not a security because of what they've done. Stacks, which I told you before, is a kind of a second layer for Bitcoin. They've gone through the process with the SEC. There's plenty of projects that have gone through the process with the SEC, and then there's plenty of projects that have not had any sort of direct action. And then another thing too that I have a problem with is that the SEC does, I'm not sure what the correct term for this is. It's, I guess it's enforcement by regulation, or a regulation by enforcement, which would be saying to exchanges that coin X, Y, and Z are securities, but not going to the project X, Y, and Z and having them go through a process to say that they're a security, to then say that the exchanges are offering securities.
Because the SEC's job is to regulate the markets. The offering, the company's job is to regulate, is to offer itself up as a security. So the company, whether it's EOS or whatever other 3-letter bullshit you want to come out with, if they
BTC.
Oh, well, that's different.
I mean, we're talking 3-letter bullshit. I'm just being real.
Bitcoin and crypto are two very different things now. Now, Bitcoin might have started off as a cryptocurrency, but thanks to everyone in the crypto space, we now have to separate ourselves. It's like, you got that retarded cousin, and then you show up and you're trying to talk to a bunch of women.
So everything aside from Bitcoin is a retarded cousin.
Even though we're blood related, I don't know who this person is. It's basically like that. It's that type of situation.
Well, I'm proud to be a retarded cousin, Mr. HODL.
But I'm being facetious, but
I know, and I'm being funny too. I'm enjoying the entertainment.
Like at the end of the day, we're at a new paradigm. This is about to be an ETF asset. It's about to be an institutionalized asset. There's a bunch of people in crypto, $1,000 net worthers, $10 a month DCA gain, happy hippies, whichever one you fit into, that are upset about that. And I completely understand and empathize, because it doesn't run with the ethos of what you think Bitcoin should be. But that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. It's a monetary network. It is not a your opinion network. Therefore, if dollars go into it, and dollars want to go into it, those dollars are relevant no matter where those dollars come from. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, we have a TradFi system that is designed to protect against dollars coming in to something like an institutional asset like Bitcoin that comes from designated bad actors, right? So if they designate certain groups as terrorist groups, they don't want that funding coming into the particular assets that they're now deeming as institutional assets. The system is set up to protect against that. And the only way you can do that is by having onshore US institutions. That's why they were having this debate about cash creates an in-kind, right? Because you got to know where the hell this Bitcoin is coming from if you don't want Bitcoin randomly that's been associated with terrorist financing, for example. Now, you and I might agree that one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin no matter what.
It's not. No, I've had this argument. There's no fungibility in Bitcoin. My Bitcoin is not the same as your Bitcoin. They have different histories, and that is something that's kind of dangerous, because let's say you accumulate a coin, part of a coin that was used in a transaction that was flagged because there's chain analysis, government's been involved in taking down entities using cryptocurrency. So I'm sure that in some sort of back end of some history thing, they have a way of saying these addresses have been involved with nefarious activities. Now, you not being the person that was involved with that nefarious activity, we may get to a point where the exchanges don't even allow you, especially if we get like TradFi exchanges where they don't even allow you to transfer these Bitcoin in, or if you do transfer it in, it's just kind of stuck because they're like, it's dirty money. And that's something that like, that's where like shufflers, mixers in the cryptocurrency space, which Tornado Cash was a mixer service, was taken down because of the fact that they were allowing for people to add fungibility. Even Litecoin, and this can be something that could be done to Bitcoin, added a side layer with Mimblewimble, which was basically a way to add more fungibility so that you can have that aspect of not having.
Say that name again. What was that service?
Mimblewimble, and I know that comes
Now,
from
which
Harry
institutional
Potter movie.
Yeah, which institutional person, which one of our parents?
Well, just think about the word Bitcoin
and use Mimble fucking Wimble. Like, this is why like they kept telling us, oh, us crypto bros understand exactly how TradFi works, and we are the actual adults in the room, even though we're rolling around in t-shirts and sandals. And then you realize they weren't the adults in the room because they're, guess what, kids. So
I'm just a big advocate for privacy. I'm a big advocate for privacy.
By the way, I just want to let you know, I just sent a message to delay my next call, so I got another 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was about to wrap it up, man.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying this conversation. Like, now we're going to get the room.
I really want people to know, like, obviously we don't see eye to eye on everything. I think when it comes to the important things, we agree. But I love having conversations with you, and I like to be able to challenge what I think I know and try to learn from people I disagree with on various topics.
Yeah, that's what conversation is about, and that's been lost nowadays. It's like people disagree on an idea and suddenly can't have a drink together or smoke a cigar together. It's a bit stupid.
No, I would definitely smoke with you. Not a cigar, but I'd smoke my cannabis while you smoke your cigar.
There we go.
Sounds like a party. I was trying to get you to basically like admit there were some other cryptocurrencies that you.
I know what you were trying to do. You don't think I know?
And you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't list not one coin.
Because I don't listen. I'm not.
Well, BlackRock and other TradFi entities are trying to get or are applying for an Ethereum spot ETF as well.
As they should. Yeah, I think they should. I think that BlackRock's job as an asset manager is to provide inroads for people who want to get into assets. So if they feel like there's value in an Ethereum ETF and they're willing to carry the cost of running that, I think they absolutely should. Unfortunately, the Ethereum futures ETF came out and did about 10% of the fucking volume as Bitcoin. So that pretty much shows that institutions don't give a damn about Ethereum yet. And I don't think they ever will. There's people in your space that think Ethereum is going to take off at some point in this cycle. Personally, I just don't. And that's okay. It's at the end of the day, it's our job as capital allocators of our time, energy, and money to decide where we want to put our money. And for me, Bitcoin has actually solved the problem. It solved a problem of money, right? It solved the problem of store of value. Now, layer 2, layer 3 solutions are trying to solve the problem of currency, and that's okay. But right now, we've solved the problem of money, and we've solved the problem of store of value. That's where I want to put my value, because that's what I think is already done and it's solved, and I want to buy the thing that's working. I do not want to put my money into something that is promising me and needs a new gimmick every 4 years to stay relevant. I don't want to do that.
I know what you're saying. Now, I would actually put Ethereum in a totally different category. When you look at the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, and I'm not a huge Ether person necessarily. I'm just putting things in perspective. The largest conglomerate in the world to ever take place is the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. You can look at the companies that have been involved with building on Ethereum and utilizing the ecosystem. I don't think it's going anywhere until another competitor truly surpasses Ethereum and what it can do. It's going to remain where it's at in its position because there is a need for this kind of Web3 new internet using these technologies.
Why
There's a
is there a
lot of
need
this
for that?
because of, for one, because a lot of the online censorship that we're dealing with. I mean, that's one thing I was telling you before we started recording was all the censorship that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So having a more distributed, decentralized internet would allow for, and platforms would allow for entities to be able to, for it to be a fair playing field for everybody, where I don't feel like that's where we're at now. There's a lot of things that I feel like blockchain technology can come in and disrupt. The idea of NFTs with the ticket industry. Um, and you can do these things on Bitcoin in theory using things like ordinals and stamps. Um, there's a lot of different things that you can utilize with these technologies.
Yeah.
The creative destruction it can use to bring, and even with music artists and utilizing smart contracts with these technologies, you can have it set up where you have a streaming service or a service where like you can buy MP3s, and once you make the purchase, money is evenly distributed automatically right away to artists, whereas someone like Spotify is taking advantage of the artists, and the artists get paid little to nothing
Well, hold
for.
on a second.
So there's a lot of different things where,
Hold on.
I mean, all these things can't be done on Bitcoin.
Hold on. Let's talk about, someone like Spotify taking advantage of an artist. That's a bunch of bullshit, right? Because at the end of the day, the artist is signing over their rights. From what I understand, I've never been in the music industry, but I'm smart enough to understand how contract works. You don't just Spotify doesn't just go and steal someone's music and put it on the platform.
Well, I know they're
Right?
not stealing it. I know
They
people are signing contracts, but there's no other alternative, is what I'm saying. There's no other viable alternative that has the kind of traction. So the artists end up dealing with the platform's demands.
What
But
about
having it,
what about
go
someone
ahead.
like Ryan Leslie, who went off on his own and made more net money, with a much smaller audience, albeit because Spotify would give you a bigger audience. He went off and made more net money on his own than he would have having an audience that was 5 times bigger. Some people just want the audience; they just want the lights,
Right.
right? So they want the
Right.
lights, so it's worth it.
But I can definitely still say that these technologies can be used to disrupt a lot of things within the world that we have going on now. I mean, we can get into very specifics and all these things, but there are use cases taking your titles, your registrations, your licensing, and all these things and putting them in a digital format, such as an NFT or something to that effect. Even the idea of being able to do blockchain on-chain voting and have it be transparent,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
have it be anti-fraudulent.
Here's what I would say. I think you're right. I think that there could be value in disrupting a lot of these current systems that we have by utilizing something that is quicker and faster. Unfortunately, to this day, an Oracle database or a Google database is still faster and more efficient at managing something than any of these cryptos that they're asking grandmas and
Right.
aunties that don't understand what it
I
is.
agree with you on that.
Right. So here's my point. Let's
And
fix
there's a
the money
time and a
first.
place for centralization and decentralization. Sorry for the
Right.
interruption.
Let's fix the money first. Let's fix the Bitcoin first. And then if you've got any of these other ideas, build it on top of a good money system. Right? That's all I'm saying. I have no problem with someone trying to fix something. If you think there's a problem, try and fix it. Hopefully you attract some capital and that venture capital can turn into something powerful and you get really rich off of it because you actually solved the problem. The problem with all these NFT people and well, all these crypto people is that the projects that they're launching only solve one problem, and that's the addiction to speculation. That's the only problem it's solving at this point. So build it on top of a sound money system, which is Bitcoin, and then we can see whether it, in the grand scheme of the competitive world that we live in, whether it's going to attract the value that you say it is or not.
I would love to see that happen. Unfortunately, I think by building on Bitcoin and using some of these technologies on Bitcoin, it's going to end up congesting the network like we saw with ordinals, and that's going to have a problem because of scaling. So, I mean,
That's
that's
where the layer 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever comes in, right? Like if we all had to trade and exchange money in SDRs, right, we would have a problem. So I use pounds, you use dollars, etc., etc., and it funnels up into the base layer currency.
can you even, I don't even think we can own SDRs.
Can't.
Yeah, I didn't think we
So at
could.
some point, maybe it will happen that all of our currencies are built on the blockchain rails, and there's no way that you can actually own the Bitcoin, but you can use the Bitcoin backed currency on its rails.
That's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible. I mean, with the ordinals and things like that, they're able to put Satoshis inside, inscribe on the individual Satoshis, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're definitely obviously really early in these technologies. In case, you know, one of the interesting notes that I will bring to your attention in case you're unaware is Vitalik Buterin, one of the main creators, founder of Ethereum. He used to
Is he
write
still
for
wearing dresses?
I don't believe so. And if he was, it might have just been for a picture.
Has he still got his pink unicorn bag?
He loves unicorns. The entire Ethereum people love their freaking unicorns. But some of the Bitcoiners have some pretty interesting fetishes.
Oh, we got wizards. No, we got wizards.
Wizards, orange coins. There's a plethora of things. But what I was getting at was he used to write for Bitcoin magazine years ago before starting Ethereum. His father got him introduced into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and such. And he proposed the ideas of smart contracts and several things to the Bitcoin core developers. And ultimately, that proposal was turned down, not to do any building of such. And that's where we've seen Ethereum happen. So it is very well possible in an alternate reality on a different Earth that in the multiverse that we could see Bitcoin accepting that proposal and allowing for smart contracts and such to have been built on Bitcoin from an earlier point and never see things like Ethereum or ICOs or any of these other things.
Listen, I think that is what should happen. And I think that that's what should happen next, right? The way I think about it is Bitcoin community has been focused on one thing, which is how do I fix the store of value problem? Now that we have achieved that point where we have fixed the store of value problem, now we can start looking at other things, layer 2, layer 3 solutions without sacrificing the core of the network. And that's how the world should be built. The world shouldn't be built by trying to put things in the sky when you don't have a stable earth, because you have nowhere to land. So you need somewhere to land first. And that's what Bitcoin is, building a stable foundation of what money is. And now you can start allowing people and inviting people and encouraging people to have all of these new things that they want to build on it. And that's great. I'm not one of these Bitcoin maxis that says all of that's bullshit. I'm not judging. If you really think that a piece of art on the blockchain is worth what you think it is, cool. How about we fix the money first, and then you speculate on top of a sound money system? No worries, you go for it. I'm not going to do it.
Well, yeah, I'm not a art, like when it comes to the JPEG NFT element, I'm not a fan of it. And one of the things that I was glad to see was the creation of ordinals and stamps on Bitcoin because of the permanence or the fact that these things are actually on the blockchain. Because let's say, for example, like Ethereum and a lot of these other blockchains that have NFTs, the actual NFT, the artwork, any of this stuff is not stored on chain. It's kind of a proof of cloud, proof of IPFS, proof of storage.
Yeah, you basically own a receipt.
Right. Whereas
it's like me buying this iPhone, right? And then sending you the receipt of it and you paying me $1,500 or whatever for the receipt, even though I keep the iPhone. Sounds super
that would be
smart.
that would be a shitty deal for me, but a great deal for you.
Right. It sounds exactly like what a bunch of people wearing dresses and wearing unicorn hats and shit like that would come up with.
We got to go to an Ethereum conference together one day, my friend.
I don't think they'd like me over there.
ETH Denver. I think you'll end up turning into a unicorn by the time it's all over.
Have they got to the point of believing that Ethereum can change the weather as well yet?
I don't believe so. I don't think that I haven't seen a weather changing cryptocurrency project yet. But now you may be spawning like a whole thing, man. And you're gonna be to blame for it, my friend.
We're gonna fix climate change by making a cryptocurrency.
Now we could fix climate change by using these alternative sources of energy that like miners are doing. Yep. Like when we talked about the
you mean like Bitcoin miners?
The ESG scoring of Bitcoin. Yeah, because there's been a lot
what did I tell you? What did I tell you in our first call? I told you
Bitcoin. You said there was going to be a probe. I know, and I agreed with you that that it was going to happen.
Yep.
That was one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the show, is because of your perspective when it came to the spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Yeah, I
You had
still
a
think
unique
that we're
perspective.
gonna see. I saw something in I think it was a San Francisco or somewhere in small newspaper talking about Bitcoin being good for the environment. Now that that's come within, like, I guess now we would put before the halving, I think we will see a pro Bitcoin mining major news publication like New York Times, Washington Post, someone like that. They're going to say Bitcoin mining is good for the environment. As I said, it would be like 6 to 9 months when BlackRock filed for the ETF, but I think before the halving now.
Well, then all they're going to be doing is just reporting the truth, which is what they were
Exactly.
trying to lie about in the beginning when you were talking about the energy consumption argument of what Bitcoin was using. Because anything that can take excess gas that cannot, or excess energy that can't be, or hasn't been used for anything else other than just spitting it into our atmosphere, where you can use that energy
Turn
to
it into
then
financial
turn.
energy. Yep.
Yeah, that's like the flare gases and stuff.
Yep.
That's powerful. That's
Absolutely.
powerful. That's, to me, that's one of the most beautiful things that we can do to the planet, is start looking at these alternate power sources. Plus, if you're thinking about trying to mine as cheaply as possible, you want to use the most effective ways of doing it. And
Right.
sometimes the antiquated AC/DC method just doesn't work.
Right.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming now. You know, we had to take care of FTX first. We had to take care of Binance first. Now that we've taken care of those, we can now start telling the truth about Bitcoin. And now that BlackRock's had its fund running for almost 2 years, its private trust running for almost 2 years, we can start telling people the truth about Bitcoin.
I agree with you about FTX. I disagree with you about having to take out Binance. But again, we can disagree and still smoke our stuff together.
Exactly.
I appreciate your time, my friend. I definitely want to do this again. So we'll have to reconvene after the holidays, after we get into the 2024, which is like not even a month away now, which is crazy. But I will remind people to make sure that they're not subscribed to your
Thank
YouTube channel, British HODL, to head over there, because he talks about Bitcoin, obviously. So make sure you check that out. And also, if you want to follow my man over on the Twitters, I definitely encourage you to do so. I'll put a link down for the Bitcoin block reward halving countdown, which is estimated for the 23rd of April, 2024. And I will also put a link for our first conversation together. But Mr. BH, before we wrap things up, man, again, thanks for your time. You got any final thoughts, anything you want to add before we do close up this conversation?
Yeah, I just want to compliment you. I think, you know, you're one of the few people that actually likes to have a conversation. And I think that's refreshing. And I know there's a lot of people in the Bitcoin space as well as the crypto space that get very dogmatic about their opinions about how things work. And then all they want to do is dive into nuance and argue. But that's not really how humanity moves forward. How humanity moves forward is through conversation overall, right? And so I just want to commend you for doing that. You were the first crypto channel to invite me on, and I'm, as you know, I like to be as maxi as I can, and I appreciate that. And thank you for that. Thank you for inviting me again.
I appreciate, man. And it's something I didn't tell you this, but I was thinking about reaching out to Kyle from Crypto Zombie, and see if he wanted to join us for the conversation. What I'd like to do is reach out to him and tell him, sometime early January, me and you're going to convene again and try to get him involved
That'd be great.
and carry the conversation further. Because I know he's been he shared some of your stuff more than once. So
He's
I know
been
he's paying attention to
phenomenal.
what you've been saying.
He's been
He's good.
phenomenal.
He's good. He's such good people.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. He put out that video that he shared has 80,000 views on his YouTube channel at this point, which is insane.
Yeah,
So I have I have a lot of love and respect for him as well. And again, I can have my opinions and you can have your opinions and Caleb can have his opinions. That's completely okay. And having the conversation allows people to open their minds and to actually make a decision about what's right for them, right? When you just say, "Oh, that's just stupid," no one learns anything in that.
I agree. So don't knock the dresses and unicorn
That shit's
costumes.
stupid. That shit. But hey, I come from a traditional finance world, so of course, for me, that's going to be stupid. For all these kids nowadays who are dressing up with pink hair, blue hair, etc., chopping this off, chopping that off, trying to make the weather change by shouting at it, that's normal. I get it.
I love it, dude. I love it. Well, man, I wish you happy holidays. If you could bear with me real
You too.
quick, I'm just going to do the wrap up. Ladies and gentlemen, again, make sure you're subscribed over at my man's channel. If you're watching this over on my man's channel, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Links are going to be down below in the video description. Make sure you check out that first conversation that we had together. And before we wrap things up, I encourage you, as always, to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch that you want to see in this matrix, and be the change that you want to see in this world. And until next time, practice change. Don't forget to visit ricetvx.com, where you can watch both of my YouTube channels, Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, directly. Find all of my social media links, sign up for my mailing list, and become a member of Rice Uncensored, where you can join me on the private side for less than $0.25 a day. You will get early access to both Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, ad-free, unedited videos, exclusive content, members-only forum with direct access to me, live streams, and more to come, only at ricetvx.com.